loneliness, especially around the holidays. A lot of times when I'm working with a client, they'll express this feeling of loneliness. And they say, of course I'm lonely because it's just me and my dog, or me and my kid, or me and my two kids, or it's just me and my three children, no one else. Or they'll say, it's just me and my spouse. So, it's been a lonely holiday because it's just me, my spouse, and my three kids. And I kid you not, I've heard just about every iteration of a family arrangement, from single to being married with multiple children. And the person is still expressing that it's really sad that they're going to have to spend the holiday like this in their state with only a spouse and a few kids and a couple pets. And I bring that up because I want to expose the fallacy of loneliness. The fallacy of loneliness is that we think that we are lonely because we don't have the right configuration of people in our life. Well, if I had a big family, then I wouldn't feel lonely. If I had children, then I wouldn't feel lonely. If I was married, or if I had a girlfriend or boyfriend, then I wouldn't feel lonely. But all of this is a fallacy because it's not actually the presence of another person that cures the loneliness. Loneliness is a state of mind. It's a perception of your situation, to be specific. Loneliness is a perception of your situation. So that's why the person who has a spouse and three kids is telling me they still feel lonely because they perceive their situation as still being unacceptable. Oh, I have to celebrate this year with just me and my spouse and my three kids. Oh, it's just unacceptable. I should have more people than this. One woman has children, but they're twins. So she has two kids, and she goes, "Oh, it's just me and my two kids." I go, "You're blessed with twins. You can never be alone." And she's like, "Yeah, but they're kids, you know." So so right? Do you see the thing? So no matter whether we have people there or we don't have people there, we can still perceive the situation as being unacceptable. Not good enough. Not good enough. Yeah, it's not good enough. And some of us are like, I'm alone. I've been single for years. I'm 42 now and I'm still single. I'm 45, I'm 58, I'm 60. And then you dig deeper and it's like, no, I used to be married, but had to get a divorce because they were abusive. It's the perception. They forgot that they ran away from the boogeyman, right? Now picture this scene. There's a monster behind you. You are running from the monster, running from the monster. You just want to get away from the monster. Finally, you find a door. You try the door and it's open. You go inside of the shelter. You lock the door. Boom. The monster's outside. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. You're breathing hard. Finally, you hear the footsteps walk away. And you say, I wish I had someone in the shelter with me. And that's what we're doing when we forget that we actually escaped. A few years ago, we escaped abusive relationships. We escaped toxic relationships. And now, instead of appreciating that we are finally free, we go, I'm alone. Why am I alone in the shelter? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that I don't have anyone else? Loneliness is a perception of the mind. One of the perceptions is just that. The reason why I don't have enough people or any people is because there's something wrong with me. You see how that's a detrimental frame? It's a detrimental perception. You're framing it so that you have to take personally what is a logistical arrangement right now. There's no one who happens to live with you, right? Well, this means that there's something wrong with me. No, it doesn't. You realize in order to have, like, if you're a person who's 100% single, like myself, in order to have that relationship of your dreams, you realize that you have to be single first. You don't go from being in a relationship directly into the next relationship, and that one is the relationship of your dreams. That's usually it's usually called cheating, right? It's like when you bounce so fast that you didn't even finish with the last person. That's usually unhealthy in some way, shape, or form. So we actually need to have some time where we actually are 100% single so that we actually can find our spouse, a mate. One woman was complaining on her TikTok page. She said, I can't believe it, another year and I'm still single. And then I went on her TikTok page and she has a best friend who's a guy that she goes everywhere with this guy. Well, as a male myself, I can understand part of the reason why she's still single is that she shows up everywhere with his best friend. When we are codependent, we feel like we have to have another person. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything if we don't have other people with us. And when you do that, then you eliminate the possibility or greatly decrease the chances that you could potentially meet someone else. You're no longer open for these new connections because you have someone else occupying that space. And it's going to be the same for the ladies. If I'm walking around everywhere with my female cousin, sister, best friend, whatever, it's going to close off some opportunities where I could have potentially been open to meeting and making other connections. So let's reframe the situation in our lives and recognize that if we're single by choice. This is a beneficial reframe. I'm single right now by choice. It's not that there is no one on the planet who would be interested. It's just that right now is not the right time, or I haven't yet had the opportunity to change the status, right? So a lot of times we'll be sad, but then if I inquire deeper, like, okay, would you be ready right now if I just presented this spouse? And many of us, about 80% of us would be like, no, I'm not ready right now. Can you make them come in a year? Right? So you're sad, but if I gave you the solution to what you believe is the solution to your sadness, which is this other person that you're yearning for, you'd be like, wait, I'm not ready. So then you're single by choice. Does that make sense? So we reframe this instead of, oh man, I don't have anybody. No, no, no. We say, at the moment, is not the right time for me. We have to remind ourselves of that so that we can combat the loneliness, the feelings of loneliness, so that it doesn't plunge us into a depression. Okay. Some people are struggling with depression around this time of the year. So we have to see depression for what it is. It's come to my attention that some of my clients are going to psychiatrists, getting a prescription, and taking pills for their depression. If you want to do that, you can, but it's not necessary because your chemical imbalance doesn't need to be treated by doing something with your receptors or your chemicals. Your chemical imbalance can be treated by changing the thoughts because all of the chemicals, the hormones in your body are released according to the subconscious mind. So, in the subconscious mind, the thoughts that release the chemicals associated with depression is unacceptability and helplessness. Unacceptability and helplessness. There's something in your life that you're viewing subconsciously as being unacceptable, but you feel powerless or helpless to be able to change it. That's why you feel depressed. It's not because you were born that way. It's not because your chemicals are messed up from birth. It's not a defect. You're not a defective human. You're working properly. We're supposed to feel depressed when there's something unacceptable that we feel powerless to change. Could be that we lost someone in death. The first time I felt depressed was when I felt stuck in a marriage with a person who it was impossible to make it work with. That was a feeling of depression. There was something unacceptable, but I felt powerless to be able to change it. right? For some people, it's because of a financial situation. It's because of their marital situation. It could be that they're married to someone they don't want to be married to, or they're not married to the person that they would like to be married to. But whatever it is, you're viewing something as unacceptable and you feel powerless to change it. So, how can we get out of depression without having to pop pills if we're the type that doesn't want to have to use medication? Well, we can utilize the tools that are available, and I'll give you some keys right now, but some of the tools that you can use, watching the videos that I've provided about depression for free on YouTube. That's one. Going to the healing course, learning how to cure your own depression inside my website, healingcourse.org. That's two. Learning the JOT method, you can use the app that I have on Google Play Store, Apple App Store. The app is called Mind by Roman Zanoni. They help you with these things. Depression is one of the things that can be cured. You can cure your depression. You can do a one-on-one session with me, Marissa, Natasha. We can help you to cure your depression. It sounds crazy, but it's possible. So you don't have to be dependent on substances if that's not your choice, right? But for now, what I would encourage you to do if you find yourself feeling depressed is identify first, what do you find to be unacceptable? And why do you feel powerless to change it? And attack at least one of those pillars. And that will actually diminish your depression because it must stand on those two pillars. So if you get into personal power, then you start feeling less helpless. So you start thinking about, how am I going to make myself happy, do something for myself? What can I do about the situation? Or what can I do, since I can't do anything about this situation, what can I do otherwise to care for myself? When you get into personal power, your depression is going to diminish just like that. As soon as you're thinking in terms of personal power, depression going to diminish. On the other hand, the unacceptability, you address this by developing acceptance. Acceptance. You can knock out that pillar of unacceptability by embracing acceptance, which is to say, it's okay. It is this way, and that's okay. Why not? Why not? Why not me? Instead of why me, why not me? It can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. I choose to accept that this is the reality. And now I go into personal power. So what can I do now that I accept that this is the reality? And you will find that your depression will diminish right away. You can do that. You can do that tonight. You can do it tonight. If you need help, reach out. Send me a text message and I'll try to help you the best I can. Or get a one-on-one session and we'll knock it out in one session. And all my fellow specialists, they're trained to do the same thing. They're fantastic at it. They're really good. So ask yourself, when you're looking at your personal loneliness, why does it bother me so much, especially around this time of year? Why does it bother me so much that it's just me and I'm single, or that I live far away from my family, or that I don't have a big family? Why does it bother me so much that it's just me and my three kids and my husband? Whatever your situation is that you're seeing as being so unacceptable, why does it bother me so much? Ask yourself that question and write down the answer so that you can understand. Why does this bother me so much? A lot of what you'll find is that it's coming down to propaganda. Around this time of year, there is propaganda that has come from the outside, movies, television, commercials, and that's come from the inside, inside your family, inside your own mind, setting up your own goals, your own dreams, your own ideas, your own visions of what life is supposed to be. So with the movies and the television, the commercials, you've got propaganda that's telling you that this time of the year is supposed to be you, and you're supposed to be surrounded by a whole bunch of family, and you're supposed to be feeling the love, right? Or maybe your family did that. And they said, this is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to look like this, and here's how you're supposed to feel, and here's what we do. And every year we do this, right? We go out of state, we go to grandmother's house, and we're all there, and that's what we do on this day. And so you get this indoctrination right? You might have family that's like, "Are you coming? Are you coming? Are you coming? Are you coming?" Or you can't even think for yourself because they're hitting you so hard with the "You're coming, right? Are you coming? Are you like just there's pressure, right? So the propaganda all boils down to giving us a false perception. So what's false about this perception? Because after all, we have off work. Why wouldn't it be a time for family and so on and so forth? What's the false perception? The false perception is cognitive distortion called should statements. Whenever we get into the supposed to, what we're doing is we're making a should statement, which is an arbitrary rule that's not actually legitimate. It doesn't actually exist. And what's most important about this arbitrary rule is that it's detrimental to us. It's a detrimental frame. All of the propaganda from inside you that you're coming up with, from your family, and from the outside world that you're getting about what you're supposed to be doing on this particular day is all should statements. It's arbitrary rules that aren't actually real, that aren't actually true, that don't actually exist. So we need to take a second and make sure that we are being the actual masters of our own little universe. In other words, we're actually deciding for ourselves what's going to be our values, what's going to be our customs, our rituals, what's going to be necessary, what's going to be important, instead of feeling like, well, I always saw the movies and it always was like this. Or my family every year always did things and it was always like this. Or I always had a dream and it was supposed to be like this. Because that's what makes us not be able to accept reality. And then since we can't change the reality, then we feel powerless and we don't have the acceptance and then we get depressed. And I can tell you one thing, what you're probably not supposed to be doing is being depressed right now. Because no matter what you believe, this is a beautiful day of life. And to spend it in depression is not going to help you and is not going to help you to help anyone else. So recognize the cognitive distortion. This is a should statement. Say it out loud to yourself. These are arbitrary rules that somebody made up, even down to the traditions, right? This is supposed to be like this particular holiday is supposed to be about Jesus. It said it's a Christian holiday, but then you can't explain why you're doing half the things you're doing. Like, what's the tree for? What's the star mean? Why the candles, the lights, why the lights, why the reindeer, was the Santa? What does all that have to do with Jesus? You can't even explain it. You know why? Because you've just been a lemming following along with what everybody else is doing because you were a kid and you woke up and they said, "This is what we're doing." And you're like, "Okay, okay." You just did it and you just keep doing what everyone's doing all the time. And you never took a moment to wake up and say, "Wait a second, what are we doing? Why am I doing this?" It's social psychology. In fact, they did an experiment where they had a woman who didn't know she was in a social experiment come into what was like a doctor's office where they had checkups. And she went to the front desk and signed in. The waiting room was full. You can see this on social media. You can see it on video. This is what happened. She goes in, the waiting room's full. She signs in. They tell her to have a seat. She sits down. Ding! There's a bell. Everyone in the waiting room stands up. She's looking around like, why is everybody standing up? That's weird. And then after a moment, they sit back down. She's like, okay, I don't know what that was all about. And then she looks down at her newspaper and then ding, and everyone stands up again. This time she's feeling kind of like awkward, like, so she kind of like stands a little bit, like she kind of does a partial stand. I don't know why everyone's standing. And then they sit back down. She sits back down. She relaxes. Ding! There's another bell. This time she stands up when everyone else stands up. And then she sits down. Ding! She stands up when everyone else stands up. Now, slowly they start emptying the waiting room and people are going in for their appointment, for their checkup, but she's not realizing these are all actors that were paid to just stand up when the bell rings. So she doesn't know why everyone's standing up. She doesn't know that they're just all paid actors. But as the waiting room gets emptier and emptier, she keeps going through the drill. Every time the bell rings, she stands up with everyone else who's in the waiting room until finally she's the only person left in the waiting room and the bell rings. And guess what she does? That's right. She stands up. Ding! Just her. And there's a receptionist over there. Receptionist never stood. And then she sits down. Ding! She's standing up just all alone. She's got to be thinking in her head, I don't know why I'm doing this. But she's just doing it. It's arbitrary. It's tradition. She doesn't understand how. But the psychologists weren't done with this social experiment. They start bringing in one by one new people who also are not paid actors. They're just in a social experiment without knowing it. And so they sit down in the waiting room next to her, and the bell rings, and she stands up. And the other person's looking at her like, why are you standing when the bell rings? And she's like, when the bell rings, we're supposed to stand. And then she does it again. She's kind of like feeling a little sheepish, but the other person's looking at her standing, and the person kind of does a half stand, like, okay. And then next thing you know, they stand up every time the bell rings, and another person comes in, and same thing, looking at them weird, like, why are they standing up? But they keep standing up, and they're like, you got to stand up when the bell rings. Next thing you know, that waiting room is full again of people, but all of them are just real people, not unpaid. They're not paid. They're just innocent bystanders who came into a social experiment, and they are standing every time a bell rings, and they have no idea why they're doing it. That is human psychology. So I would implore you, take a moment and ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why is this so important? Because we're punishing ourselves for nothing. We are convincing ourselves that on this particular day or on this particular time or week, depending on what your traditions are, I am not supposed to be alone or with this person or just with this person or just with these people. It's arbitrary rules. It's arbitrary rules. You're creating a feeling of discontentment inside yourself that's not necessary. And what's worse, it's not helpful. It's unhealthy. It's causing you mental illness. Literally. You're driving yourself to mental insanity by putting so much emphasis on this particular day and this particular time, and it's got to be this way. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be any way you want it to be today. You can do whatever you want to do today. For instance, just imagine if instead of the propaganda that you received about this time of the year, you had different propaganda. Imagine if you were always given images of a person being alone around this time of year, taking a spiritual journey, going on trips by themselves, or spending time at home alone. You got images of people praying and getting close to their creator, making it a spiritual thing. What if you got images of people making do with very small one or two person get togethers around this time of year? You would feel very different. If you got propaganda and images of people who would just make dinner for themselves, who would cook for themselves and watch television by themselves on this time of year, you would feel very different. So the rules are arbitrary. We need to lock into what really is true, what really is real, what really is important, and we need to build for ourselves what makes sense for me. If I don't have something, then I don't focus on that. If I can't control something, then I don't focus on that. I focus on what I can control and I focus on what I do have. So for the woman who has the twins, she should love those twins. She should focus on those twins. If they're young right now, she shouldn't say, but they're young. I don't have any adults to hang out with. No, you should love these moments with your twins. This is your moment with them. They're not going to stay young for their whole lives. This is it. The time is moving quickly. Enjoy it while you have it, while they're young, and you can pick them up and you can play with them and you can cuddle with them, and everything is new and exciting to them. This is that special moment. What am I doing there? I'm practicing mindfulness and gratitude, cultivating an attitude of gratitude. And that's my key to combating depression and loneliness during this time, is being grateful for what I have. If you have just you and your spouse, don't say, oh, it's just us. No, go, yes, yes. We don't have a bunch of other people that we have to spend any money on or spend time with. We can go on a trip. We can go here. We can do this together. We can do a staycation together. That would be so fun. We can just relax, just you and I. Make the best of your relationship, of your situation, because you're not promised tomorrow with this person. Be in a spirit of gratitude. And if it's just you and there is no one else, enjoy it. Make the most of it. Yes, I have my privacy. I can wear what I want, watch what I want, eat what I want, do what I want, do it how I want. Make a plan for yourself. Some people get together with friends, things like that. That's fine. But make it for yourself, something that's not dependent on other people, because then you're codependent. Make sure that your happiness is self-contained so that you'll be fine either way. Does that make sense? Along those lines, one tip I have for you is uh, choose your mood. You have the ability to choose your mood. So most trauma survivors aren't aware that they can choose their own mood, right? Because we learned that emotions were scary. We needed to run from them. We needed to be afraid of them. We can't control them once we have them. And so we spend our time either running from the emotions or being dominated by the emotions. We look at the emotions as something big and something frightening, but you can actually choose your mood to a large extent. You can dictate how you will feel in your life. This is well illustrated by how we act when we're kids and we don't want to feel bad about something, right? Like, hey, I heard that Sally dumped you. And then the kid says, I don't care. I guess adults can do that too, right? Why do they do that? Self-protective. We instinctually know if we say that we don't care, and if we really don't care, then it can't hurt us. And that's true. Emotionally, when you don't care, then you can't be hurt by the situation. I had this Uno reverse pulled on me this one time when I was a kid in grade school. We were pretty young, and I grew up in a school system where we went to school with each other the entire time. And me and this one girl would antagonize each other whenever we got the opportunity. So this time I thought I had her. I noticed that the dress she was wearing was a little bit translucent in the back, and I'm like, oh, this is all I need. So I had my plan that I was going to go and make fun of her. And I ran up to her and I was like, you know, your dress is see-through. You know what she said? She said, I don't care. And she just kept walking. And I will tell you, that drained all the fun out of it. I was ready to bully her. I was ready to just like make fun of her. Like, but she just said, I don't care. I needed her to be embarrassed. She was supposed to like put her hands over her face and like run away, that I could chase her, that I could yell, be like, hey, everybody, look, ha, 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 ha. But I couldn't do that. She took all my power away by just being like, I don't care. No value, no emotion. No emotion, no embarrassment. No embarrassment, no fun for the bully. So I lost. I got nothing. I just It gave me nothing I could work with. She just walked away. If you don't care, I was just baffled. I was like, you don't care? Like, how could you just not care? That was it. We can use the same hack. We can use the same hack. in our lives. I don't care. I use the same thing today. I had a plan. A buddy, they initiated with me. They said, "Hey, we should go to a movie tomorrow." I said, "Sure." Yeah, that sounds fine. We can go to a movie. So it comes time, I text them, I'm on my way, and blah, blah, blah. We're gonna go to this movie. And they start, can we push it back a little later? I'm like, no, I can't do it later. I have the live later. We got to do it early in the day, like I told you already. And they're like, and I could kind of tell that they weren't comfortable with the time. So I was just like, hey, it's no worries. We can just do it another time. And they're like, okay, yeah, 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 let's do it tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If I were codependent, how would I have responded by my friend becoming wishy-washy on the plans we had made today? Oh, I would have been upset. I would have been angry, indignant. How could this happen to me? And then we put in the traditions, right? The should statements, the arbitrary rule. On this day of all days, how can they do this? And then we aggrandize it. We go, they ruined, right? They ruined it. They ruined this special day. They ruined it. This is what we do as trauma survivors. But all the power in someone else's hands. But I didn't do that. I learned from that girl. Her name was Jenny, by the way. And don't worry, we antagonized each other. She got me plenty of times. But I learned from her. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. Do I really care if I go to the movie with this friend of mine or not? Not really. I don't care. I don't care. Why? It's not going to be better. They don't make the movie better. The movie's the same movie. I was not even sure if I really even wanted to see the movie. So I decided I would go and watch the movie by myself. So I went. It was a dinner theater. It was fantastic. The food was wonderful. As soon as I ate the meal, snuggled up under my little blanket that I always bring to movie theaters. I recommend that, by the way. I fell asleep. I couldn't even tell you what happened in the film. I fell asleep. And guess what? I enjoyed my nap because I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. And that's something you can't do when you got your buddy there. Not as comfortably, because then you feel like you got somebody there who's gonna throw stuff at you or something. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to fall asleep while you're there with another person. It's almost rude. So I felt good that I could actually just relax and just do it my way. Aren't I glad that I didn't care? Yeah, yeah. So what did I do there? I chose my own mood. I knew when I woke up this morning I was gonna have a great day. I already knew that. I was already pre-chosen. So this little thing, it was laughable to me. Like, for many survivors, that could have been this big breakdown situation. But no, it's people can be wishy-washy. It happens, and it's fine. Not a big deal. So also, by the way, the I don't care attitude is a good antidote to depression. Why? Because that part that's unacceptable is because there's a value being violated. So when you take the I don't care attitude, suddenly you don't have to feel as depressed anymore because you just took the value and you devalued the thing that you were valuing so much. Not in all cases can we say that, but in many times we can say, you know what? I don't care. So if someone asks, what about things we can't control? That's the stuff that we don't care about. It's the things we can't control. We make the choice, we make the decision to let them go. I don't care about what I can't control. I don't care about what I don't have. I care about what I do have. I care about what's in my power, what is in my control. Everything in the brain runs, it's a computer system, so it runs on language, code. Everything in the brain is a computer system, so it runs on language. There's a certain way to speak to yourself. And that way to speak is what I've been teaching you throughout this talk and over these weeks. You keep it beneficial, 85% in the beneficial, positive, I'm in control, personal power. This is the language of the mind. When we speak it properly, our brain will work properly. We will not be mentally ill. When we speak improperly to the brain, we escalate the traditions, the day, the arbitrary rules. We escalate the power and the importance of the other people. These people are so important. That's not using the proper language of the brain. Your brain won't work properly, and you set yourself up for pain and mental illness. I think another reason why I was able to cope is there's no expectation. And so that's another hack for days like this. Have no expectation, then you can't be disappointed. No expectations, then you can't be disappointed. So create your own rituals, choose your own mood, use the proper language of the mind, and you will find that you have the ability to overcome loneliness and to actually weaponize your situation to propel you to greater and greater success and happiness.